Hey, thank you, and welcome to from proposal to pipeline, grant writing support to systems driving HBCU excellence. We have an interesting presentation here for you today that will not only provide resources but provide systematic ways to better help you understand grant support throughout your systems and resources for that. So we'll make sure that screen is on. Today we are joined by staff and students from Meharry Medical College. We are joined by Christi, McClellan, Alicia, Dupre, and we've got actually a PhD student here, Tanika Norwood. And she'll also share some of her experiences with you today about funding and ways that can be kind of implemented for your various institutions. Okay, we do have this infographic that we did want to share with you to show you from proposal to pipeline and how good, solid grant writing systems can support not only your excellence in research, but provide an opportunity for discovery.
Basically, in the proposal to pipeline graphic here, you have where it starts initially with the opportunity of discovery, which in our world we call the NOFO. And then you will move to working with your PI as a grad student to begin writing your proposal. During that time, not only are you working with other people that will be on your grants, but you'll be working with a team like myself and Alicia to ensure that during the writing of this grant proposal that you are following the standard guidelines permitted in the NOFO as well as within the college. Alicia is actually our compliance personnel that will help you stay in line at Meharry Medical College in the School of Medicine. From there, you will review this with a variety of people, and in our HBCU, you actually need pre-approval to even submit your grants. We need to make sure that we are in compliance with many different things and at many different levels, not only with the government agencies we work with, but within our college as well. Once you have submitted and been wonderfully awarded such an item, then we move to how do we spend your money. That's where people like me come into play, as well as Alicia, to continue making sure that everything is in line to make sure it's allowable, allocable, and reasonable. And then we move to what matters most. How does it affect our students, and where do they go after?
So looking at the particular process, where do proposals stall? You know, we found out a lot when, you are submitting, grants, whether it is, federal grant, whether it's a, foundation, whether it's a private foundation, they stall. But where do they stall? Take a moment, take this poll. We want to see exactly where. We just listed a few opportunities, kind of walking around asking, but we want to know, where do these proposals stall? And how can we fix those roadblocks and how they stall? I know a lot of times, a faculty, they'll come with us, with an idea. We've got to read through the FAQs. We've got to, write a budget. Then it moves on to a grant committee for, review, hopefully submission. But, where is it stalling at?
So the question that pops up says, what would help most entries?
Hey, answer it. Hey, that'll help us. Hey, any input will help us in that. So, and towards the end of the session, we'll come back to these. We'll revisit these questions to find out, how can we, what systems can we put in place in order to, better compensate for these. So as we look at these different questions, what type of support ecosystem does your institution have in place? Do you have a robust sponsored research office? Are they hands-on? Are they hands-off? Are you able to email, text, or call them when you need them most? When you need them most? Meharry's support ecosystem is incredibly robust, and I'll let our team speak on that as well.
So, hi, I'm Alicia. And we definitely want to make sure that we're staying in compliance, but also meeting the needs of the actual grant. whether it be a community grant, whether it be an HIV or sickle cell research grant. So we have a lot of different departments, and the key thing to making a grant flow and making it work is to make sure that you're aware of what the departments are and how they work. So at Meharry, we don't work in silos. We actually work together because each block of your university has a purpose. And that when that purpose is served, then we get to serve the community and make the change that we want to see in the world.
So when you go to the QR code, you can see various resources that Meharry applies for different grant processes and grant systems. One thing that they champion for grant resources is project concepting. So does your project concept match what the frequently asked questions? Does it match what that solicitation is asking for? What's the prospective research? Where's the project going? And what part of the proposal development are you currently working on? And then, of course, that leads to things like proposal review, application guidance, and kind of towards the end part of stewardship in the program. When you think about the grant life cycle, you start with project development, you end with award closing out, but how do you get there? What process is used to get there? What support systems are in place to better help you understand the pre-award and the post-award? Yep. You've got junior faculty, you've got tenured faculty, so you have the full run of development opportunities that you're working with. Did y'all want to add anything?
The other thing that we focus a lot on at Meharry too is to make sure it's not just in line with what you're looking to support grant-wise and what's being solicited by the agency, but does it also fall in line with Meharry's mission and goal for the university itself and their departments?
So in thinking about those, so we looked at stalling, sorry. So hopefully this goes to the right question. So what would help you most at your institution?
Anybody? Don't speak all at once.
Yes. Feel free.
Did you answer?
And towards the end, we'll have, feel free to ask questions about this the most. What would help you the most? I mean, I think the number one thing is, hey, more funding. We all need more funding. A lot of times funding is very specific. And, when you look at your grant specialist, you're looking at ways that you can look for opportunities that will, fit the project and fit the faculty.
I don't think the QR code's working properly.
It's not working. Okay, we'll put it on. Yep, we've got some answers on there now. Here are some of the answers that we're seeing. Support from administration, post-award support, deadlines, which in itself is something. Development, sponsored office, and student participation. And those are all valid points when you think about, where do these proposals stall? Did you all want to add any points on that?
So a lot of these are really good responses. We see these as issues all the time that come our way. The other thing that I don't know if any of you have experienced, but I know I have at various institutions I've worked at previously to Meharry as well as at Meharry. A lot of times we stall in our proposals getting to where they are ready to be submitted because something has changed. Either the agency has changed something at the last minute, which does happen. I never thought I'd see that, but it has happened, especially in the current administration, where wording has changed, where we had to go back and actually rewrite an entire narrative to make sure that we were falling in the correct wording that the government wanted us to use. By changing that wording at times, it actually changes the context of what that proposal is meant to be, and it no longer falls within Meharry's values and mission, as well as what our PI is trying to fulfill with that goal. And so a lot of times our proposals will stall there and just end. The other thing that we have run into is the type of funding on the back end. Is it a reimbursable grant? Is it a forward-funded grant? Depending on the size and how we work with those agencies, we may or may not be able to support that grant at the time. So that's where Meharry has instilled that we must get the pre-approval so that we can look at all of those aspects. And when I say we, I'm gonna take myself out of that. That's more of an Alicia thing. I don't want to step on her toes.
It's definitely
That
Alicia
is a compliance
thing. I am the person, they love to see me coming, but they hate when I open up my mouth. Because a lot of times I have to say no, because it's just, especially with the time constraints. A lot of your RFAs will come out very quickly, especially when it comes to your private grants, your metro or county grants, because they don't know their funding is going to be available. So they try to put it out really quick because we want to spend the money. We don't want to send it back. So the time constraints is a big thing at our university because we're not a huge college, but we're a good sized college. So we have a lot of checks and balances in place so that we ensure that we follow the rules, that we are on mission, we are on brand, because marketing is very big in universities, and we have to be because we're competing against so many other universities. So we must use time wisely. And a lot of times if your RFA says we need this proposal back in a week, and your proposal is 15 pages long with a budget, 9 times out of 10, we're not going to be able to accomplish that, because what we don't want to do is rush something and it not be right and it not be correct and it not speak upon what the mission is and how you're trying to change things. So that's a big thing for us, as well as I would say sometimes it's the lack of communication. The PIs are visionaries. They have it in their head. They know what they want to do. They've actually been in the communities and seen how it's going to affect in a positive manner. But it's not always communicated. It stays in their head. So that's another issue that we may have, I wouldn't say issue, let's use the word barrier, because issues are a big thing, barriers we can overcome. So that is a barrier that we have, getting it out of the PI's head and understanding there are steps, there are processes, there is time needed. But we are working to overcome that, and we've came a long way.
A student perspective, Tanika?
For us, it's sometimes that it's not just the timing for, like, sometimes they want a proof of concept, right? And sometimes we need the grant to invest in the resource to prove the concept. We have like a proof of concept on a smaller scale, but we don't want to like say it's going to scale in this way because we haven't tested it. We're scientists. Like, models change over time and they get better when we have more information. And so, yeah, maybe we can put it on an HPC cluster, but we can't put it on a quantum server yet. We can only build out like a simulation. And if you've ever built a simulated result, you can, and then you try to put it into an actual test bed. Anyone who's ever done that knows that there might be a gap, an interaction, some other term in your equation that you didn't see before you did the experiment. So like making sure that what you are proposing actually is viable before you actually get to test it is something that like PIs might shy from, right? You don't want to promise the world if you can only give an ocean. Yeah.
Thank you. And that kind of segues into our next question. We have a question. Feel free to go to the mic. Can you step to the mic? Thank you.
I can repeat it if you. Okay. I don't know.
Okay, so
I'll repeat it.
So So it is a barrier because with more money is more expectations. A lot of times there's more restriction on the actual funding itself. The bigger the pot of the money, the more you have to do to maintain and almost certain get the money to begin with. It really depends on the structure of the grant. There are so many components, like, is it $1 million and your institution is going to absorb and expense most of the money? Or are we using subawards? Are we using consultants? The more complex and the more components that you put into a grant, that can sometimes make it a barrier. However, with the more funding provides opportunity to make changes.
So do your university just say, just throw in all the grants, or we're only gonna do 10 grants per fiscal year, or you just say everybody on a grant and we'll figure out which one we can do?
So we have a portfolio.
Okay.
Most universities do have a portfolio of what types of grants they want: research, teaching, community-based. So we have a general portfolio, and we are currently building our portfolio. We are very heavily based in like HIV, sickle cell, cumulative diseases, prevention of diseases, things of that nature. We do have a big presence in NASA as well. But as our institution grows, because we started off with a hand number of schools, we're constantly adding new disciplines, new schools. That provides our portfolio to grow because we need funding in order to support them, because we don't always get it from, the government. We don't always get it from the state, so sometimes we have to go outside of the parameters in order to support the institution. What else could we say about that?
It also, sometimes people don't have constraints on the
Yeah, depending on the grant.
grants. Yeah, they don't have constraints on the.
Not every grant has the same constraint.
Yeah.
So like an NSF grant does not have the same constraint as, say, an NIH grant.
Or
And
HRSA.
as we were talking
NASA.
about the community grants, when you were saying about the $25,000 grant versus $1 million grant, a lot of times those could be a lump sum grant where we actually get, here's 25,000. You
Yeah.
can spend it at your own discretion towards that goal. Now, mind you, you will have to report on how you spent that money to ensure it was spent properly. But it's basically an open season on how you want to spend it. The other agencies, and as you were saying, the higher level, more amount, more scrutiny, more reporting. We have to make sure, again, allowable, allocable, reasonable, and being the fiscal manager for currently $14.5 million for my PI's grants. Anytime HRSA, SAMHSA, any of them walk in the door for an audit, I need at a moment's notice to be able to explain and justify every single one of those charges to make sure they're in line with all of that.
It also allows we can move, one of the points was administrative staff. You have to have a very strong administration staff in order to be able to pivot at any moment. A lot of times we have administrative staff that are good at this thing. They're good at finance. They may be good at typing the paper. They may be good at proofreading. But with those bigger grants, you need administrative staff that is multifaceted and multi-talented. And they're very hard to come by sometimes.
And that's where us not working in silos at Meharry helps. Though Alicia and I are technically in the same school, we are at different levels, but we are on the same team. Alicia and I literally work together every single day to make sure all of our grants, whether they're for my PI or another PI within the university, are in compliance. So just because I'm not assigned to that PI does not mean that I'm not assisting her to answer a question for one of those grants, and vice versa. And that's how we make sure, even at a smaller staffed institution, that we are able to complete all of these requirements of the grants and is supporting our students and our PIs to the fullest.
So in summation, we don't gatekeep.
No,
We train each
we
other.
absolutely do not.
When we get information, we pass it along, that communication thing.
And that provides a segue into our next segment, which is the student pipeline, and why this matters so much beyond the grant proposal. We're joined by Tanika Norwood, one of our students that benefited greatly from funding.
Okay, so David asked me my thoughts on this, and I think when you're a student and you walk into a PhD program, you typically have like a pretty clear idea of what you want your thesis to be, what kind of work you want to do. You have all these plans, and I just knew I was going to be building a triple negative breast cancer dashboard where people could get insights and innovation, because I knew how to do that. I hadn't done it on a big enough data set, but Meharry has its own data set. So I had all these plans. I did not realize I was going to be doing adversarial training, building large language models, deciding how to do bounding on large language models, creating GPU servers, figuring out what CIA is, and it's not like an agency for secrecy, it's more of authentication, learning about ACID, building things that can be standalone, figuring out how FERPA can be encrypted and encoded into different programming languages. I had no idea what I was going to be doing. I had all these plans, but what the difference was is that Uttam Ghosh knew what I was going to be doing because he saw something in me, and then he got me all of this training. And like, it wasn't just, oh, no, you're gonna be in this cybersecurity club, you're gonna go to these conferences, you're gonna learn to go do these workshops, you're gonna learn how to write papers, you're gonna get trained on high performance computer clusters. Oh yeah, Tanika, you're going to build something that can be on the edge. So that's the difference between me walking in here with like, I don't know, 12 years experience, building dashboards, helping people drive insights for like small to like large enterprises, and then building like agentic systems that are orchestrated, bounded, and local. Like, that's the difference between having a pipeline and not having a pipeline.
Free. So I can personally attest to this, that when you're building that student pipeline, and research and graduate students benefit from these opportunities, they're being exposed to opportunities they might otherwise have. It's going to turn into long-term opportunities that will turn into research internships, hopefully postdocs. You want to create a research culture or a system that is sustainable. You're looking for ongoing funding that's sustainable. So these opportunities that these students are participating in, the next group of students can participate in as well. And the next group, you want to create long-term opportunity for all of your students to have access to. We've got faculty that are building amazing labs. They're keeping that momentum going. They're looking for opportunities every day. They're messaging every day, hey, look at this opportunity, is it a good fit? When you're looking at those opportunities, you want to build a good fit, not only for faculties, but for long-term viability for all students. Anything else? So just take one moment, just kind of turn and talk. What's a support gap on your campus? What's the low-cost fix for that? What can you launch in the next 3 or 4 weeks? Just take a moment.
Bless you. Welcome.
All right, everybody. So out of curiosity, our panel is curious as to what your thoughts are on these questions and what are your potential solutions. Yes, ma'am.
So our team consists of at Meharry, we actually have a grants department pre and post team. Our pre-team is actually on the back end of it. So in the actual departments itself, your team is going to consist of your PI, your program manager, your financial manager, or sometimes they're listed as grant analysis. You're going to have your partners. So if your organization can't sustain the grant and you need to go outside of the grant, you're going to have either your subawards or your consultants, which will be part of your budget. And then you're going to have, what's the last person?
The
One more.
compliance officer.
Oh, the compliance officer. Me. I forgot all about me. So once you have that team together, and your PI and your program manager are going to be your first leg of the race. So they're going to go through that RFA with a fine-tooth comb. Your PI is going to get the project idea together, and then he's going to get with the program manager to put all the components together. After that, they should have a good basis into which now they know how they're going to spend the money, because you have the words, now you need to match it with the numbers. So then comes your grant financial analyst or your program manager. Sometimes we double down and our program manager is both programmatic and finance. So they will review the numbers, go back to the other two and make sure we're collaborating, we're in constant conversations, we're keeping those timelines and the deadlines, because that's very important. A lot of times the PIs want to keep changing the proposals, but not all the time you can do that. Sometimes you have to have that program manager or that financial analysis to say, okay, you have 1 week to tell me what it is so that we can move on to the next step. And that's very important in your grant writing process, to have those timelines and those expectations so that we can keep moving, so that the end result is for us to submit on time. Once that is done, then you bring in your compliance person. So we've already had the proposal, we've already checked it with the program manager, we've already checked it with the grant financial analyst. Now there's another double check. Here's your compliance person. We're gonna make sure that it aligns with your agency's rules. We're gonna make sure it aligns with your university rules. We're going to make sure that it aligns with the government rules, because sometimes we have private grants, but they still, because it's a pass-through, they may have gotten funding from the federal government. They're the middleman, and then they're passing it through to the end user. So that's your compliance person. And then after all of those checks and balances are done, and your team has fulfilled its purpose in its job, then you're going to go to your pre-award so that they can submit it officially, because you want your institution to be able to support it. Okay, if I have a HIV grant and HIV medication is very expensive and the grant is going to pay for it and it's a reimbursable grant, that means that your institution has to give the money first. Let that expense hit their ledger, and then they get the money back. But if we have $1 million worth of medication, can your institution pay that money out and wait for the government, who's not always on time, to give the money back?
They're not on time. They're not on time.
So those are the things that you have to think about and have real conversations within your institution and the departments so that we're all successful. So the minimum team doesn't have to be all those persons. They can double down in duties, just as long as they understand what those duties are and are able to fulfill them. You may have to research. You may need to call another institution that's more well-versed in these types of grants to get help, because yes, we're all separate institutions, but we all should be working together.
And that's very important too. And it goes back to a lot of what Alicia and I were saying earlier, where we don't gatekeep information and we don't silo things. If I'm hit by a bus tomorrow, Alicia knows everything that I'm doing. We do a lot of file sharing on SharePoint and through Teams, that at any given time, any one of our team members, whether we are specifically working on those grants or not, if one of us quits, dies, gets sick, whatever, somebody's there that can back us up. We try to keep, no matter what level of personnel we are, everybody on the same page for that reason. And I agree, not every institution is large enough to have a full team of individual people. I can honestly say Meharry's one of the smaller colleges that I've worked at as a grants or an EA. I originated from Penn State, where we have an enormous amount of resources and staff and personnel. We have an entire department that's actually larger than Meharry University at our disposal. We do not have that at Meharry. And then I've also worked with side agencies as well as a volunteer, where I'm their only resource for everything that Alicia and I are saying that we have at Meharry that makes Meharry sound huge. So I understand your dilemma. But yes, it all comes back to having amazing people, having an amazing team, never gatekeeping that information, and making sure everybody's on the same page.
I see several questions. Should I?
By all means, do your thing, David. He makes a great MC,
He's
doesn't
gonna
he?
walk to you, yeah.
He's gonna play our Oprah today.
And that keeping the information on some type of data collection is very important for attrition, because we are all on a career path, and sometimes being at this university is not the same university we're going to be at in 5 years. So keeping that information on some type of shared drive is going to help with your attrition as well.
Okay. I had a few questions, but some of them kind of went away. I think you answered some while I was waiting. First one though is how many people are actually in your, say, sponsored program, your grants office? I'm not sure what you all call it.
About 10?
10 in our grants and contracts office, and then within our college, it's
a
Alicia
lot.
and I.
It's a lot individually, but with the School of Medicine, I actually am over the whole School of Medicine.
Okay.
So it's me. But I have a lot of, like I said, we double down. So our department administrators actually do a lot of the grants as well as our program managers.
Okay, so that's important. Because I asked that question for a reason, because I oversee our grants and university grants and research office, along with our Title III, and we are a team of 3 people. And it's a lot for a university, so I understand we're having to multitask on several levels, and also we're actually helping to try to push, better word, encourage our faculty, because we're a teaching institution, and get them better engaged in writing grants and research and so on and so forth. So I kind of want to ask that question to understand your infrastructure. And secondly, when you said, so we do pre-post, but I understood that you said there's a whole portion and then there's a pre-part. So I was a little bit maybe just seeing it different from the structure we have versus the way that you were explaining, so I may have misunderstood. So
when I say pre and post, so that's at the ultimate institution level at the top. There's pre and post. We do pre and post at the department level. So you have the institution, and I'm also referring to the department level. It starts at the department level and then it pushes up to the institution. Because a lot of the agencies want a signing official to submit it, saying that the institution is going to support it. So that's the difference between us and at the top.
And I guess we are beginning, like, we are bringing in the actually certified, and a little bit of
Thanks. We got one more back here.
Funding is important. We all know, we want money. So, and with that actual pool diminishing day by day and schools being affected to the point of closure, what I want to ask you all is, PIs are, at least for us, we're used to the PIs being seen as the faculty or the professors within our various departments. However, there are cases, and a lot more frequently than you would think, where PIs are actually the learners in your institutions. How are you all engaging those types of people who would be the PIs in that case to ensure that you can have access to buckets of funding that are typically not represented by the faculty or staff being the PI?
So usually, you would need to have some type of mentorship. So we have various PIs in our institution. Some are junior faculty, some are they have 1 or 2 grants that are very small. Some have a big grant and that's the only grant that they manage. So it's very important, again, not to be in silos and to reach out and find your mentor in your university or find your mentor outside of your university, so that you get that support, that you get that knowledge, that you get that database to make your project successful. So that's the best advice that I can give: find a mentor.
The reason I ask that is because a lot of, when the government is not able to step in, private entities step in.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their biggest challenges to overcome is to ensure that non-staff, non-faculty, non-instructors, PIs are able to pursue these avenues that they're basically just throwing money at you. And so, for, at least in our case, like in our university, we typically shy away from that because we don't want to be kind of stepping on others' toes, or like it's making sure we don't cross any barriers. But if the money is needed and we have a way to get it, how to engage, how does the university or a university engage with those individuals to ensure that they can pursue it, that they will pursue it, to ensure that there's not a resource gap that contributes to a lot of the issues that universities, especially smaller HBCUs, face.
I can tell you from working at multiple institutions, from Big Ten universities down to an HBCU, a lot of times those opportunities are available, but it's a matter of you actually have to work with your office of sponsor program and your university, because they already have rules and compliance codes in place that ensure that everybody is covered, whether it's a faculty member, a student, a grad student, and so on. So I always recommend, starting point, talk to your office of sponsor programs from the get-go. You're very welcome.
And, we're right at time, and we've got just 2 last slides for you. Of course, culture matters. The main thing I want you to come away with is support systems that ultimately shape your research. And, these 3 statements here kind of sum up, everything that we've shared with you today. We're creating strong researchers and student researchers. We want to create stronger institutions, and our main goal is to create lasting impact. That's what funding is going to lead to, lasting impact. There's funding available from these agencies and the opportunities there. We are right at time. And anything else?
Do you want us to introduce ourselves quick, since we
Yes, feel free.
So since we were a little bit caught off guard because we were a little delayed from the last group, taking a little bit of extra time, which we were happy to give them, we missed our introductions. So David very nicely asked us, as his Meharry colleagues and coworkers, to join him today. I am Christi McClellan. I work for the family and community departments in the School of Medicine. My specialty is grants fiscal management. I have over 25 years of being an executive associate and grants manager in both Big Ten and HBCU and universities.
Hi, I'm Alicia Dupree. I am in the School of Medicine Office of Business and Finance. I am the School of Medicine Grants Administrator. I have various backgrounds. I actually started off in our dental school, moved over to family medicine, and then moved up to the Office of Business and Finance. But I also bring a lot of background from the corporate role. So I've worked anywhere from Bridgestone to Pepsi. So I have the business mind from it. A lot of the institutions, yes, we're education, but we're also a business. And we don't need to forget that.
Understood. My name is Tanika Norwood. I'm a PhD student in data science at the School of Applied Computational Sciences at Meharry. My background's in physics and mathematics. I spent a lot of time doing data analysis for small and medium software companies. And then I did a brief stint in the GovTech space. And now I work in the DISCS lab with Dr. Uttam Ghosh, out here trying to make cyber-physical systems real that are bounded for universities like Meharry to use our knowledge to innovate and serve.
And David Lockett, former teacher, I was previously at NASA, Team 2 RORR. We specifically worked on designing solicitations and federal funding for informal learning opportunities for K-12 and undergrad students. So it's a very unique position. It wasn't public facing. We worked with Congress to provide funding and opportunities through which now Meharry Medical College is definitely benefiting from. So thank you for joining us today.